Okay, well, welcome back everyone to our foundation-sponsored Technology Student Success Grant. So today we're really excited to have Catalina Goralski and Sarah Pierce talking to us about creating welcoming classes. As you probably know, the World Languages Department is pretty famous for the kind of interactivity and immersion that they create in their classes. I mean, it's pretty remarkable what they've both done over the years. And so we wanted to host this workshop and have them each talk about some of the techniques that they use to approach creating interactive classes. And I had a chance to preview some of their material. The other exciting thing about this workshop is that they're going to be talking about DEI efforts. So it's really timely just in terms of some of the things we've been doing with equity on campus. So let me turn it over to both of them for their introductions.
Well, thanks for having us today. Should I unmute? Hi, my name is Sarah Pierce. I have been at the college since 2005. I think I've been teaching online. I was trying to remember for probably since 2010 or 11. So a long time, over 10 years for sure. And so I just want to introduce myself. I've been teaching Spanish the entire time and in different modalities, also in the ISP modality now. And I wanted to start by just talking about why distance education is important for me personally, because I know that some instructors say they prefer face-to-face, they prefer one-on-one enhanced correspondence or distance ed. I've had the privilege to teach all three modalities, and I think one of the best things about distance education for me is that it is that great equalizer. It's giving students more of an opportunity to get their education in a world that's more difficult, posing equity challenges, etc. So just like Scott said from the beginning, I think that humanizing a class goes hand in hand with equity issues and understanding how we can put ourselves out there to give students the best opportunity to search for their education and achieve their degrees and making the barriers as least as possible. So I'll throw it over to Catalina Goralski, my compañera.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Sarah. Well, my name is Catalina Goralski. I teach at World Languages, Spanish online, face-to-face, and ISP. I've been working at the college since 2008. And I started teaching online in 2014. Why I teach DE? Because I really like to give students accessibility, students that they have kids, students that have multiple jobs and they want to get educated. And because when I started teaching DE, it was a big challenge for me, and I like big challenges. So that's why I teach DE, and thank you for having us today, Scott. Okay, so the way I structure this presentation is like I'm going to share 5 guidelines how to make your class welcoming and appealing for your students to log in and have fun and learn with you. So the first one is communicate to your student a growth mindset, not a rigid mindset. This means that you, as the instructor, believe that every student can learn and grow their ability in the subject. My teaching pedagogy, I'm the number one fan of my students, and that's what I like to communicate with them from day one, because I think the impression they have from you online on day one, it really set up the tone of their experience online. And also, like, some of them are really terrified to do an online class because it's their first online class. And also, they're in our case, it's also learning a language. So that's why I emphasize this so much, to be welcoming and communicate that we're here to help them. Number 2, challenges are expected. You're learning. And something that I always said to my student is like, you are learning Spanish in this class, but I'm also learning from you. And I always say this in my face-to-face class and the online classes, because I really believe that we learn in every social experience we have with different people. And I like to communicate this to them because that also make them feel like they're valued. And I'm seeing my notes. Hold on a second. We're learning, make your class a place where they can find empathy and where they can seek for help and guidance. I did a workshop with the HSI and the community colleges, the HSI grant last week, and it was so inspiring to hear the students that their experience in college changed their lives when they find a mentor, and usually that mentor is an instructor. So I want to mention that. Related to that, it's like I heard in this workshop that usually we said office hours in our classes, and I learned that minorities and unrepresented students, sometimes the word office could be related to problems. Like when you're going to the principal's office, it's like because you're in trouble, right? So now there's a trend, and there's a lot of people that is using drop-in hours for students instead of office hours. And I think that was a great idea. I never thought about it, and I'm going to start using it in my syllabus and at my door in the future. I think it's way more welcoming, and it appeals more to knock that door and come in. Then number 3, make your class content meaningful. Create your content in a way that the students can relate to their own experiences and validate their voices and their cultural background, their story, like validate their experiences and give them the opportunity to share them with the class too. Number 4, be positive, not punitive. Be kind, be the leader in your online classroom. I believe that if you make them feel welcome and that they're nurture and learning in your class, they want to do good for you because you are showing them a subject, but also they're learning how to learn. And I think that it's super important. It's very important to communicate that, not your subject, but teach them how to learn, because a few of them, they are always memorizing content, but they're not like discovering how to learn in the more efficient way. And last one, value diversity. Let them drive their education experience. And when I'm saying this, I'm bringing in personal pronouns, heritage, stories, experiences, pictures, use images. Like this generation is so much about image and instant images and stimulus. So I think when they log in and they see a picture with diversity, they really feel like seen. And I think that is very important because we don't have what we have in the face-to-face class, that they can see different kind of people. So if they can see a picture, they can visualize that. And yeah, that's are my 5 guidelines. Sarah, you want to add anything?
No, I think that we are going to hit on some examples of what these look like in our classes. But I do really appreciate with Kata starting with the 5 kind of guidelines of really how we conduct our DE classes is very similar to how we conduct our face-to-face classes. So one of the art of teaching ideas that I constantly think about no matter what modality is when I walk into a face-to-face course, I would present myself in a certain way. The same thing we're trying to emulate in our online classrooms. So in those online classrooms, how do they know that we're there, we're showing up, and that we are ready to experience the whole realm of experiences for students? I think that's just one more thing that I would say in addition, but thank you for starting with that. And so Kata, if you want to start driving some examples, we'll keep going.
I will start showing my homepage for week 1. So I use these Bitmojis in different pages through my course. and I think it's very useful because if you have this is an application where you can create your own Bitmoji, and you can install this in your browser, and then you type one word, and this this program create your avatar with different words, and it could be English and Spanish, and it's fun. Students like it. In my homepage, I have a video where I communicate these 5 guidelines that I already mentioned. I welcome them. I tell them that I'm available for help. If they need any other help, like student services, basic needs, help with SAS, please reach for help. And I said that there are places that where they can find these different kinds of help if needed. Then I give them the link to buy the book. And then because I know a lot of them, when they're taking an online class, is their first online class, I have the link for the Canvas orientation that they give them a mini tour through all the Canvas shell and how to use the different features in Canvas. And again, let me know if you have any questions. I'm here to help you. I always use the phrase, like you probably seen in a Mexican restaurants, like su casa es mi casa. Well, I always use mi clase es tu clase. My class is your class. And then in the homepage, because some of them, they don't know where to go, I put this here and I said, click here to access your modules for week 1. So they click here and they go straight to the course overview. And here is where I tell them what I expect for them. For example, guidelines for written assignments, and they have rubrics. Please read the rubrics. You're required to read and be responsible for the information contained in the syllabus. Also, like the syllabus is a very important place where you set the tone for the classroom, the online classroom. My class kind of repeat the resources that I have in the module with the syllabus, but I learned more is better in the online environment, so I don't mind to repeat the information if they need to reach it. It's at the syllabus and the Canvas modules pages. I also tell them about the feedback. This is part of the OEI rubric, that how long it will take you to give them feedback. For example, here I said if you submit it by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m., your feedback will be available within 48 hours. Usually, I try to grade. I receive the assignment and I try to grade it right away, because if they're doing it early in the week, I will respect their time and I give them the feedback as fast as I can. Also, I give them time on how it will take for answering emails. I also said don't wait till last minute to do your class, because probably I'm sleeping by 10 p.m. and I cannot answer an inbox at 10 p.m. And also, like, please communicate with me before you get frustrated. And then here is what I said, mi clase es tu clase. I'm gonna show you guys like the first week of class. I have like course expectations. I have a full module about that. Also, I talk about an attendance, absence, and participation. I'm not gonna read all these, but I said there are rubrics in the discussions. Complete your assignments in Canvas or Portales to approve this course. Click login several times per week. Post regularly in our discussions. And then again, like images, I think they're very important. And I always put like the avatar and then the English, what is saying. Assignments and grading feedback. Here is like the goal of learning is to growth. So I always emphasize in my class that grading, it's important. But for me, what is important is like they read my feedback and they learn from it, so then they can apply it for future assignments. and be proficient in language. So I emphasize that it's very important for them, if they want to learn, to read the feedback. How much they need to approve the class. And this is all in week 1. And I think it's important. And I give them a lot of time on week 1 to read these modules, because then it works for them, but also for me, saying, if you read week 1 absence policy, or how much it's going to take me to give you feedback, it goes both ways. I always have one deadline per week, because I think it's easier for them. And then I have the student standard of conduct that takes them to the catalog and they read it. Then I talk about academic integrity, and this is something new. So with the workshops I attended the last 2 weeks, they bring this land acknowledgement that I think we are doing this in our online classes. And in all the classes and all the documents we do at the college. I really like it, because if they're Native American students, or like, you make them feel seen, like they feel represented, to have like a full page in a module that you feel that you belong, it's very important. So I put this now on my online class. And it talk about Washoe and Nisenan people. I don't know if I pronounce that. Okay. So this region holds great historical, spiritual, and personal significance for its original stewards, the native nations and people of this area. We acknowledge their connection to this land and give thanks for the opportunity to live, work, and learn on their traditional homeland. And then something new that I'm doing now too is a note about recent events. Here I talk that I'm aware the world we're living, that we are coming hopefully after a pandemic. Also, some of our students were evacuated. There's a lot of social distress going on. So I mentioned the events that we lived the last 2 years, and I know that some of them, I acknowledge that some of them can feel overwhelmed, anxious, or having issues concentrating, or going through some mental health issues too. So I said I designed this course knowing that, and I have that in mind, and I'm willing to create a positive and supporting learning environment through the quarter. And as I said, please reach out to the resources at LTCC that I have included in the syllabus. And then I put the work here, support, because I think after reading this, if they need support, I mean, it's coming. And then the images here, I pick up on purpose this image because it shows diversity and like different colors. So yeah, I think images are very important in your online class, because if you just see text, usually you don't read it. But if you see an image that is appealing and represents you, there's more chances that they will read it. I have a welcome letter too. I send this before the class to their LTCC email, but I also have it here. I talk about online help, also SAS and other resources. I want to go now to, I'm going to show you guys one discussion for week 1, where they introduce themselves. Well, and then in this week I have meet the instructor, my teaching philosophy, how to contact me. It's kind of redundant, but I think it's very important to repeat how they can contact you. Steps to using Canvas. In our discipline, it's very important how to type certain characters. So we have that, and we show them how to do it. I talk about announcements, objectives. I have the syllabus here. And then I think Sarah will talk more about that, some parts of the syllabus. But I want to go to here where they introduce themselves. And here is where I ask them, what are your personal pronouns? ¿Cuáles son tus pronombres? Tell us something about your story as a student, where you're working, why you're taking this online class. And I give them these questions as, guidelines, some things that they can share with the class, but also as they start posting, I said, feel free to share something that is not in their questions, because this is the place where you introduce yourself to your classmates and maybe you can discover a student partner through the quarter. So making that learning community.
Can I add one thing here, Kata? So you say here, try to upload your voice and video for extra points. I just think this is a very good best practice as well, because oftentimes students, especially at the very beginning, don't feel comfortable posting their video right away. But I think we try to encourage students to say, put yourself out there. We're putting ourselves out there. We're doing video announcements, etc. And I would say, as we put these in our discussions, I've had more and more students start to put their face, or at least their voice, out there. So I think that's a great best practice.
Yeah, and also like OEI rubric says, give them the instructions how to do it. So I have that link there that it show you how to upload a video or a voice recording. I love to see their faces in a video, but I also understand some people feel very intimidated, so I give them the opportunity to share their voice. And then let's see, I'm gonna go to my syllabus because I want to show something there. I put in there how to be a successful online student, and I create this list with some advice, with tips from other faculty that they share with Scott. I think there's some Treva tips, there's some Scott Valentine tips, so thank you guys for sharing your material. I appreciate it. And where is it? Hold on, let me get there. Okay, here. And the syllabus, I make it like they can see it in right away in the module, and then I want to show what is at the end. So I have course description. It's a little bit long. So how to succeed in Spanish online. And then I have these tips. Read and become familiar with the course syllabus and the faculty's expectations. Work on this class a little bit each day. Stay on top of the assignments, reading activities for each week. Logging into class, it's at least 3 times per week. Complete and submit your assignments on time. So I do write this on my syllabus, and thank you the faculty who shared this list and some of the paragraphs on my syllabus, because I think it's important how to teach them how to learn online, because some of them don't know and it's the first time that they're taking an online class. Then something that is very useful in the online environment is to have rubrics. So they know what you expect from the assignment, and they also, sorry, and I'm scrolling, but I'm looking for the assignment that I would like to show you. I think it's here. They know how they will be graded. So here they're selling a trip. They need to create the trip, like talk about the tickets, transportation, how much money you will need for the trip. And again, I use an image that implies diversity and fun. And here it's where I have my rubric. So I say uses vocabulary fun lections 5, 10 points, use many different irregular verbs, comment to classmates, posted early in the week. So they know each category and how you will grade them. And then they start posting, they do questions. I also give them questions back. I give them feedback with the things that they're wrong. And our discussions are very interactive in World Language Department. I log in every day in that online class because I respect their time. And if they're doing their assignment, I want to give them feedback. And then something else that I use is, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I use Marco Polo, which is an app that it looks like, I don't know if you can see that beach ball right there. And it's like a walkie-talkie with video. And I used to do it with the class because when I think in an online class, I think about accessibility and how to make my class available to them wherever they are. Because when I was a student, sometimes I was like driving and I got a question and then I just forgot to ask in class. So I use that app in order to, like, if they have a vocabulary question or this happened to me, or like today I went to a Mexican place and I ordered tacos in Spanish, like they can share that with the class. And also ask questions like grammar questions or cultural questions. But I think it's another way to give them access to the class that it could be it's reachable anywhere. So far, I don't have in the accessibility. I'm not running into an accessibility problem with that app. But if it happens, I will take care of it. I want to mention that. And yeah, that's my minutes. I'm done. Sarah.
I would just say thanks to Kata. Many of the things that you're going to hear me talk about are a little bit more in depth of what she already spoke about, and then also, some personal things that I've done in my classes. So one thing that I think it is a benefit is the World Languages Department has very similar course shells for all of our courses. So if they're taking a 101, Spanish 101 with Kata, and then they come to Spanish 102 with me, and then Nico Eckhart, for example, for 103, the students will have a similar layout. The students will have a similar experience. And I think that we all talk on Marco Polo, actually, in our department, about what are some of these best practices that we want to have in our language classes. I wanted to go back to a little bit about Kata says about creating a growth mindset really within the classroom. I think it lends itself to our discipline. So in a language learning discipline, we were taught when we were very young language learners and I was learning Spanish, Kata was learning English probably at the same time, that we have to have a low affective filter, meaning that we need to make sure that our atmosphere is very comfortable, because it's human nature to not do well if we are not comfortable. So I think it was kind of embedded into our working style, into our teaching style early on. But I think that's been something that we've always thought in the back of our mind. I know in face-to-face class, or also in my syllabus, I always say, true or false, is it true that after one drink you speak Spanish better? And students are like, I don't know, is this a trick question? And it's actually true, right? Because we need to feel comfortable. We are our own worst critics. So I think when we created our online classes, our face-to-face classes, and any Spanish classes, I think we tried to keep that in the back of our mind. So I'm just going to also just jump into what my screen looks like. I'll start with my homepage. So my homepage is a little bit different. It's morphed over the years. I've had, I kind of changed it as time has gone on, as I've changed as an instructor. And so now I am using Google Slides, which I think is really helpful. It's really easy to change each quarter. I'm able to have a start here button so students know right where to go, buy your book here, get your Portales login here, go straight to the syllabus, and then link it to a Google Doc for my, my office hours as well. In the past, I've changed my homepage every single week. And I just didn't feel like students were really utilizing the information that I was putting there, but I think it just is a real academic freedom thing. I will notice at one point on my shirt, on my little bit emoji, which Kata and I both love to use, as you've seen through her course as well, is I had a student reach out to me this quarter, and she's a recently transitioning transgender student, and she said, I just want to tell you that how thankful I am that you have that right on your homepage. It made me feel very comfortable being in your class. So I think I want to just emphasize what Kata said about images, about how you portray your personality and who you are in an online classroom. I think it's really easy to do in a face-to-face classroom. We have to be a little bit more thoughtful and forward-thinking in an online setting. So something so easy that I actually didn't even think much about it when I put it in there ended up being really resonating to one of my students. I think that, yeah, so the homepage, again, I always have the last 3 announcements coming up to the top. I can go back and now and check who has seen those announcements. I think that's kind of helped me realize how many announcements I want to put out. Many of my announcements are now video. I think that has really helped the humanity, the personalization of my classes. If I can get rid of this, a bar up here, yeah. So I was going to show you an example of one of my announcements that I just put out. For example, do students go and look at your feedback, right? I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of time doing my feedback, and I was going to open this up, but it wouldn't open up another page. So let me see right here. So for example, feedback from week 2. I walk my students through exactly how do you find feedback? How do you look at Sarah's feedback? How I give personal video feedback for every single voice call assignment. So I want my students to take the time to look at that. So I have done a video that says, "Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm going to show you how to look at the feedback I gave to myself," and it's kind of silly. But I think that the more we can encourage students to get in there and participate with us, we're creating those relationships to be stronger. So I will show you an example of some of my video feedback in a second. But I think the more that I'm willing to put myself out there, I've realized, the more students are willing to put themselves out there. And Kata talked a lot about the syllabus and our contract that we have with students. I just want to reiterate, yes, that's a contract, and sometimes syllabi can be a little, I don't want to say stale, but I want to say contract bound, right? So I think I want to start by saying my first page is definitely like, has the student learning outcomes, but it looks like it's not like, oh gosh, here we're going to go, into the drudgery of a syllabus here, right? What is the class? And then down here, the first thing that we talk about is really why do I teach? Who am I? Is it important to me? Why is it important to me? Respect for your classmates is important. I'm not the great Oz behind the curtain. I don't want to be an instructor that just sits back passively and has you submit your independent work. That's not my expectation for you, and I hope you're not having that of me. Talks about 10 to 15 hours a week, etc. Really who I am and why I want to do. The second thing, my personal commitment, is that I create a positive learning environment. First out the gate in our syllabus, what we think is the most important, creating an atmosphere that is best for all learners in our environment, personal pronouns, etc. And we've talked a little bit about other things in our syllabus that have been, really creating that atmosphere, that space, that low affective filter for students. But I think how we back that up is that we look at the syllabus quiz. So if we, our first week, and Kata talked a lot about our pro tips, our tech tips, what we do each week, to talk about how can we get students to be comfortable, to know what's expected. And I think that's by having some really low stakes assignments. So our first week, we have assignments like post a question to Sarah using the inbox. Seems very easy for us, right? But maybe students really don't know how to do that. And I know that they can't be successful in my class without doing that. Spanish characters practice, that's simple stakes, 5-10 points, right? Academic honesty, I'm having you write down, you're not going to use Google Translate, because I know that that's something that's going to impede their success in the class. Email, is your email connected to Canvas? Asking a question of your compañeros de clase, right? And then taking our syllabus quiz. And I think that a syllabus quiz is an old idea, but I have found it be very, very important in a class that's online. So for example, we're asking something like, provide your email and your phone number in case Sarah needs to contact you. Where can you find help, right? Some of the things those pitfalls that students fall into. But the last questions that I ask are, why are you taking this online course? And I found this to be very interesting because in a discussion, students will say like, oh, me gusta el español, I love Spanish, it's so important to me, I want to be bilingual. And then they come down here and it's like, what are your goals? Why do you plan on taking Spanish in the future? And they say, nah, I just wanted to graduate. And you're like, oh, that's kind of a buzzkill, right? But you can say something back to them like, well, I hope to change that by the end. Or you have something to say, my grandma is from Mexico. and I've never been able to speak with her. And so I take notes about those students so I can say, oh, that's right, that student's grandma was Spanish speaking, came from Mexico, to try to connect with them in the best way possible. It takes a lot of extra work, it's true, but I think that having all of those extra little connections with students that you can find individually, having them get videos is really been helpful. And I'll go back to say our syllabus is pretty tight, right? I mean, we say absolutely no late work. We say, you know, this is our deadline. And, you know, we say we're here to support you. But then when students come to us with their situations, of course, we're humans. And I think I've had many students go, oh my gosh, you're so nice. It's like, you mean I'm just human? So I think that we sometimes forget that our contract can be really tight, but we can understand that when they do come back, you know, and ask for one get out of jail free card, right? Or one, please let me have an extension on this assignment, that we can have that kind of case. It depends on the student, right? I've had different experiences. Okay, so I think this, I would just say another thing. Scott said that this is something that not a lot of people do. I think it depends on our discipline, but definitely, where have I traveled? How is that impactful for me? You know, I have pictures of me when I was very young, back in the day in Mexico, being in Spain during 9/11, the impact that had on me, being in Mallorca, living in Mallorca for a while. So I think students understand that it's like, this isn't just a job for me. This is something I care about. This is my way of life, and understanding why it's important to me. So I think just putting yourself out there as much as possible to have them get to know you is very helpful. And I think that, I will just say one other thing is it has a little bit to do with what Kata said about creating that growth mindset, knowing that learning is not always linear, and having space for that concept with your students. So if it's not linear, then it's actually, you know, it's kind of a little bumpy. And knowing your having your students know that that's okay. You know, it's okay if this week you feel like you speak great, and next week it's just, it's a struggle, right? I think we all feel that in the way that we even operate in life. And let's see if there's anything else. Oh, I wanted to show one example. I don't know if this would work for everyone, but in our classes, we, like Kata showed, have a lot of discussions. And I think one way that I've learned to grade these discussions is been very unique. So after they look at what do I have to do in the rubric, I go through and I actually embed the comments to the students within the discussion. So for example, this student has something, has a couple areas where I would hope that they would work on them, right? So I put my comments in there so that all students can learn from the grammatical areas. And then I just also say below, like, thank you for maybe ask them a follow-up question. Sometimes I feel like this is a greater way in the discussion so that everyone can experience my feedback. Whereas in a video, personally, it's better just to one student. So it's something that I've experienced, you know, that I've played with over the years, and I don't know if it would work for other disciplines, but definitely to say, oh, I really like your comment here, but I go actually into there instead of just posting it below. Because then it's in the initial posting. So I don't know, that's something maybe unique that I have done as well. And then I think that's good for now. Do you want me to keep sharing, Kata, or do you want? So the last thing we're going to do today is talk about our assessments and how we've tried to create student-centered assessments, multiple assessments, so students are able to drive kind of their own learning. You know, I actually received an inbox from a student this morning that said, I want to tell you how thankful I am for the course, because a lot of online classes that I go into, they're like, read the chapter, take the quiz, post the discussion. And he goes, and although I feel like Spanish is harder because there's more assessments, I think that we've gotten really creative with our assessments and trying to say, okay, students might not do well on that type of assessment, but they do really well on this type of assessment. And maybe that lends itself to our discipline and having listening, reading, writing, and speaking be all areas that we're trying to assess. But I'm really proud of some of the assessment techniques that we've created. I was going to share one that I've done and then have Kata share one of hers, just some of that's kind of unique. So I think I have it up here.
Can I add something?
Yes, go ahead.
So when Sarah is talking about like we need to make the students comfortable in the language class, also I always tell them that do mistakes, it's okay. because you will learn from your mistakes. Because there's a lot of students that I want to do it perfect. And I was like, okay, but if you do it perfect all the time, you will not improve. And perfection is really hard to attain in a second language.
In life, actually.
Yeah. So I always communicate that learn from the mistakes. It's important. Yeah, I like give them that confidence to talk.
I would just reiterate, not to share too much about Kata's story, but when my students come into me too, I say the biggest mistake I ever made in my entire learning of Spanish was trying to be a perfectionist. I never would order even a taco, right? And we had a student that came into our office the other day that was very upset about her challenge exam grade. It didn't go well for her. There were some, directions that she missed. And I won't share Kata's story, but I'll just say that she shared with her a personal story that connected with the student so that the student didn't feel like she was the first person on the planet who's ever dealt with a situation like this.
Well, I told the student a story that I misread an instruction and my grade wasn't spectacular. And that experience teach me so much and how to deal with failure. Because that's the way we learn, not just in a classroom, just in life. And then from that test that I didn't do really great, I created a good connection with that professor and become my mentor. So again, those connections that make relationships, they're very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll just jump into real quick. So this is an example of a dictation assessment that we do. So again, it might not be just Spanish. I mean, I think that you can think about a psychology class. You pose the questions by putting your face on there. I chose not to close caption it so that students, and what they have to do is they have to listen to my video. They have to write out the question that I posed to them perfectly in grammar, with good grammar. And then they have to respond personally, individually, how to those questions. So it's asking a question in Spanish, having them write that out. So it's really doing comprehension, writing, and I really appreciate this because it's not just phone it in or take a quiz. Students seem to do pretty well on it, but I bet you it takes them a lot of times to listen to me talk. So I've also had experiences of doing a discussion posting or a phone call where you're specifically saying, I want this grammatical concept, I want exactly these 5 things, so it's harder to plagiarize. I think that that's another thing. The flip side of this coin is our assessments are so unique and different that you're going to have to pay somebody a lot of money for them to do all of these for you. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. We have a lot of other ideas. If you have any ideas that other people have that you want to share with us, we are always looking for new assessment ideas. But I'm going to stop sharing, Kata, and you can jump into your different assessment or creative assessment.
Sure. Now. So in my classroom, I share a lot of music in Spanish because I discover music and sports can unify people, make us feel the same feelings, like who doesn't vibrate with music, or the soccer championship. There's the Olympics, right? So I use these music assignments. Well, now I'm gonna share my music assignment because I was mute, so now I'm going. So music and sports are these 2 things that unify people, make people vibrate in the same way. So I use a lot of music, and I use the music to teach them vocabulary, to learn about the culture. Also, when I decide to do these music assignments, let me go for one here. Here it is. I use videos that they show diversity and diversity, and like I said, music. And in this video that I want to show you a little bit, it shows sports, different kind of people dancing. They learn vocabulary. So I was here we're talking about the present progressive. It's what verbs in present progressive you can hear, what the people are doing in this video. Do you know the singer in this video? What is your favorite song in Spanish? And it was funny this week, a student said, "Thank you for sharing music in your classroom, because I never really hear music in Spanish, and now I'm totally into it. And bailando, it's been stuck in my head all week." So I will show this a little bit. And probably you hear this song before. So I show this video because you can see República Dominicana, Dominican Republic. You're seeing another country, you're seeing the Spanish culture from Spain, but also the Latin American culture together, singing, having fun. And there's at the end, they're playing soccer, of course. And it's a way to make the language learner more fun. And yeah.
So I just thinking about Kata's showing that. We have one more. We use VoiceThread, which I wanted to highlight just because this is something that the college pays for each year. And I just used an assignment last week that used VoiceThread. And for concepts that are kind of difficult, I'm teaching Spanish 103 right now, which is pretty grammar heavy. And in this class, I had students actually participate. It's not just a way to, we can use basically Studio in order to caption or basically screenshot our PowerPoints. But I think with this example of, let me try to find it, sorry, real quick, discussion, VoiceThread PowerPoint assignment, students are able to see you talking through a PowerPoint, basically. Let me go back to the beginning of this one, 14 of 14. So basically they're able to see you at the beginning, ooh, it's going very fast, to see me as a video talking through my my PowerPoint, and at the end they're able, it's basically I'm doing the exact same live video or live lesson that I would be doing in class, but just through this VoiceThread technology, and it's not very hard to use. And like I said, the college has a license for this. And at the very end, students may ask a question within the PowerPoint, just like they would do in class. So I think it's a really great way if you're especially lecturing on something pretty complex. And then the student was able to say, oh, here's my question about this exact slide. And then I actually, at the very end of this assignment, gave an assignment to all students saying, okay, now you have to use this and you have to respond to the other classmates. So I think that it's another unique way that we've found to assess students that helps them kind of be the drivers of their own learning. I think about when I was in college, I didn't love to go in and be told, like, you have to just write this one paper and that's all you have to show everything you know in one paper. I think especially equity says that we need to give students choices, and we need to make sure that it's accessible for them. And they may not like this assignment, but maybe one student does. So I think that's just another thing that you can utilize. You can ask Michael Miguel how to use PowerPoint or how to use VoiceThread, or reach out to us as well. So I will stop share. So do you have anything else to add, Kata, before we take a couple questions?
Yeah, I will just share that if you would like to have that line acknowledgement or that note about the events that we're living or anything about my class, just reach out to me. I'm here. And if you're interested in Marco Polo too. But yeah, thank you.
And that's great. Wow, wonderful. Let me just say also that I'll try to get that all those great resources put up on Canvas Commons, the land acknowledgement, the support page, just so many great ideas. And I want to leave time for questions, but just one comment I have is that I think both Kata and Sarah emphasize that I think it's a myth to say you can either only have standards or you can have this open, flexible class. They've shown that you can have your standards and deadlines, but you can still humanize the class. You can have that growth mindset. And so I hope that we can take this resource. If you're watching this video, I hope you apply these ideas in your classes. And I would love to see this conversation at like Convocation or an all faculty day, because I just think like you both have such wonderful ideas to make the classroom human. and but yet you're setting deadlines and standards. So you can do both, and I think there's a myth sometimes that you can only have one or the other. So
And don't get us wrong, there have been students that we say absolutely no extension for you. I mean, because the situation was just not the right situation. But I think that, I've talked to Christina Tomalilo about this as well, is that having them very clearly stated in your syllabus is very important, but you always can bend and always listen and have empathy for your students. And again, they shouldn't be coming back every week and asking for that. But, it's something that, I hope that I would be extended the same grace if I was in a hard situation.
Well, Treva, do you want to jump in? Do you have any questions?
First, I just want to say thank you so much. The two of you are amazing instructors, and great, wonderful colleagues to work with. Kata, first, I don't know so much questions, but I love the drop-in time. It's going to be changed on instead of the office hour. I like that. I'm gonna put that on my materials as I move forward. And then the idea, Sarah, you mentioned that you take notes and you try to personalize your feedback and all of those things from either the introductions or the syllabus quiz. I think that, like you said, that's really really important. And you said that you take notes, and I don't know if people are aware or it is the way that you do that, but in the gradebook now, the new gradebook, there's a view where you can have a notes column. Oh. And I always include, I'll just put SLT if that's where they're from, or this or that, their major, and I put those notes, and it's right next to their name in the gradebook. So when I'm grading and I need to kind of personalize things, it's right there in the gradebook. It makes it super convenient. So again, if you go into the gradebook, it's under, I believe, the view tab, and you just say you want the notes column to appear. Because like you said, you're keeping track of it, and then it's mobile with you. Like if you forgot your notebook somewhere and you're grading, offsite or something. Anyway, so that was just when you said that, I thought, oh, awesome. We take notes, but how can we make it, just convenient for ourselves? Yeah. And then finally, I think the two of you have been using video for so long, and I just think it's wonderful and amazing, and you put yourselves out there. But can you just give a little bit of advice for people who aren't using video? Like, is it, I know even instructors are nervous about making videos. So what's the practical advice? What's the expectations, grace for themselves, all that good kind of advice I think that you could give people, faculty, as they try to venture out into this strange, world. Even though we've been on Zoom, still, it's just the video part of it. Some people, I think they find it a little bit intimidating as faculty.
So I would say absolutely, and I would say the number one fear in the United States is public speaking. So I would put this out there with that, and Kat and I were talking about not wanting to be on video right before this workshop. So I think this is a fear, and it's uncomfortable to see yourself over and over again on a screen. I think that's just the first thing I'll say is you're absolutely right. People, I still don't love them, but I realize that if I can get out of my comfort zone, I'm hoping my students will get out of their comfort zone. I think I started with just very short videos, which I hated, and I stumbled over my words, and I was totally discombobulated. To this point now, people walk in the office, and I'm like, un momento, por favor, and I just like pause it and then go back, because I think it's like being in the classroom. And if we can think about it like being in the classroom, being with our students and not looking at ourselves at the video. I will say the bad thing about doing videos for over 10 years is now I go back and look at myself 10 years ago. So that maybe is an unintended okay, I have this all documented. I need to wear more moisturizer or something. But I think that you're right, Treva. And I think that it's hard, and it was a slow process for me to feel comfortable. I still don't love it, but I do it because it's the right thing to do. What else, Kata?
So I agree with that. I will say keep your videos short and think strategically where you're going to post them. Because if you post 3 videos each week, they will not watch them all. So really you need to design your class and design your class and see strategically where you will put those videos. And keep them short, simple. Don't use really fancy words, because sometimes students don't understand that. So then when I'm saying keep it simple, or use the words, but then say, when I'm saying this, I mean this, like giving an explanation if something is very like complicated to understand, but keeping it simple, because sometimes we forget that not everybody is an English learner. So keep it simple, short, think strategically where you're gonna post your videos. And I always think like your videos are your brand. So look for something that make your brand appealing to them, that they want to log and see you in the class. Because as Sarah said, like the Zoom meetings, you have Zoom meetings that you're like, oh my God. And then you have Zoom meetings that you're like, oh yeah, I want to be in that meeting. So you want your videos to be that Zoom meeting that you want people to go. Yeah, I will say those are my 5 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I think that also you're always harder on yourself than anyone is hardest on you. So take a deep breath, put yourself out there, and notice that a lot comes through gesturing and intonation in your voice. I mean, as language teachers, I think we know that. And students want to see you. Students want to see who are you. They don't want to just read your text. They want to see your facial expressions. They want to see you moving, not in real life, but the closest thing that they have. Maybe I do as a learner. So maybe you want to emulate what you would like as a student.
I'll just say real quick, the thing I learned today about that is you both use humility. And I know it's a big thing. When my wife used to teach in K-12, they're always trained like, start your class off with a story that shows yourself in a travel situation where you messed up or where you felt uncomfortable and you dealt with challenges. And then that way, to go back to the growth mindset and this idea that, that you're humanizing the class, the students don't feel like you're this professor who has all this power. And so making fun of yourself or showing a tricky situation you've been, like in a travel context, I think is just a great way to really start that kind of mood at the beginning of the class. So I just love that in terms of how you both use video.
I would say one other way is it keeps it current. So when we were wearing masks in the classroom, I would come to my canvas shell here and take it off and be like, oh, no tengo que usar la mascarilla hoy. It's like, I would say like, oh my gosh, isn't this great? You can see, tengo una boca, like I have a mouth. So I think that like there is, if you can kind of find that humility or, trying to make fun of yourself or whatever, I think it is a really good teaching technique because it makes students feel more comfortable.
Thank you for that. That's really great. And like I said, I took a humanizing class with the @ONE, and if people don't know about the @ONE trainings with the, through the chancellor's office, there's just some amazing classes you can take. The first thing I think it's the best thing to do is to be a student, an online student. That's where I learned that when I had, maybe more strict late policies and different things, that when I was a student professional trying to take a class and I'm working full time, that I learned that, oh my gosh, if my workshop person wasn't more concerned about my learning, and maybe it took me a day, one more day to get it in, that, that would have really taken away. I mean, what wasn't the purpose about my learning and growing and that type of thing, and that allowed for those types of, like we said, allowances for that. And so that really changed my my late work and being, the such policy driven things sometimes. And like I said, like the humanizing, and the humanizing. Another thing I just encourage faculty. I mean, my instructors in those classes also, it's like, they took their smartphone, they just took their iPhone and they're out doing something out on campus somewhere, or they were doing different things and they just do their quick video just using their phone. So it's like, again, I'm a human being, here I am, I want to touch base with you, or hey, isn't this a cool thing you're seeing here? It's just, I think we need to get away from the thing of being, like we said, like even Scott said, we're not perfect. We're trying new things. And if we don't show our students that we're willing to do that, how can we ever ask them to? So it's still challenging for myself, even like Sarah said, as long as I've been, trying this. So anyway, I really appreciate this presentation today. It's just been really great. Thank you.
I agree, and I think I'm glad, Trevor, that you were able to attend, because I think the point is you both would agree, like, this is not just for language classes, right? You can do this in math and sociology. And so do you have any thoughts on that, like how other disciplines might use some of these techniques and approaches?
I think like maybe I was thinking about this the other day. how you can do this in other disciplines. Maybe you can bring some news about the discipline somewhere else and how you you compare our reality with the different reality and how you feel about it, what you will do, what are your advice to make things better. I think newspapers, like online newspapers, can be a good resource, but I'm not a chemistry teacher or a math teacher. But I think bringing news into the classroom is a good way to humanize content and see it from a different perspective.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add that I think all the tips that we talked about today could be added in any discipline. I think it's really about helping students understand who are you as an instructor. I will just say I got my doctorate online, so I have taken a lot of online classes, like Treva stated, and there were some instructors that were just so present and so human. And so I knew exactly how to ask them questions and how to interact with them, and others who were terrible. So I just think be the instructor that you wanted to have. I think that's really just a great mantra, I guess. And I think that goes for every single discipline. It doesn't matter if you're teaching math, I still agree that we need more ways to assess though. I think that's one of the ways that our students are able to show what they know in a more rigid environment. I think we need to continue to do that in all modalities personally, and it's kind of like my mission, but my soul's mission. But I think that, there's a lot of ways. I've talked to Treva about this, I've talked to Kata about this, of how can we tap into what students know without just a test, without just a quiz, without just a discussion posting. And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to in the next few years, is delving even deeper into that and saying, how can we get students to do more collaborative, project-based learning? But I think that really what we've talked about today can be any discipline. Take that low effective filter and run with it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I will add, the students will always remember how you make them feel.
Well, this has just been awesome. I mean, all the tips, and I really see this. I'm going to be pushing out this video to campus and please get in touch with us, get in touch with Kata and Sarah about any of these ideas, because I almost see this as almost a guidebook to transform your classes. And of course, a lot of you are doing this, but I know particularly with new instructors, sometimes they say, well, how can I do this? And how can I use video? And for all these years, world languages, as far back as I can remember with Issy and when Diane and Nancy were here, it's always been about innovation, because it's you have to interact with your students in languages. And so what we can do in our other classes to take and transform our classes, I just think these are great tips and guides to hopefully get us started. So thank you both for this wonderful workshop.
That we're here in A256, and we are collaborators, and we love to work with other faculty and with other colleagues and students, everyone. So, and I think anybody will be a testament to that we're here, right, Kata?
Yes, we are here.
Well, great. Okay, well, thank you, Treva, for attending. Thank you to Sarah and Kata for presenting the wonderful workshop. And those of you listening at home, please, again, consider some of these ideas, because I think they're just totally transformative in terms of making our classes more interactive, technological, and also, of course, focused on DEI issues. So, great. Well, thank you both again.